want to go to the front of the queue, give me a call and you can have your say. I'll come to Avirant very shortly. However, somebody who is at the front of the queue, and I probably need to speak to immediately, because if not, he will boil over with froth, is Dr. Roger Kiefel, personal finance expert and CEO of Fair Money. Dr. Roger, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Who only knows what's going on with your picture there? I don't know. Somebody will tell me. Meanwhile, we'll just continue talking whilst we sort out the vision. Roger, we've had quite a week, haven't we?
It's been an incredible week, James. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been momentous, almost unbelievable week for just about everybody, I would imagine. What a magnificent send-off for Her late Majesty, the Queen. I mean, nobody can do it like the Brits. And with all the bad news around, especially, as you say, Putin upping his game, I found it all, frankly, a welcome affirmation of the very best human qualities, didn't you?
Yeah, look, there are plenty of things about how the UK responded, not only in grief, but also in action. It was a distraction away from some very serious issues that we have to face. But it also demonstrated, in my view, how strong the United Kingdom is, and therefore what the opportunities are for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's some tremendous opportunities, but I am very concerned about the Putin situation. I personally, I think that this is all part of a plan that he's had for some time. And I'm concerned more at home about the biggest news now, since the funeral is over, is that the Bank of England has announced that they plan to raise interest rates yet again.
But they sort of have to, because the US interest rates have gone up, and regardless of whether you agree, which I don't, by the way, with the Bank of England strategy of raising interest rates to combat inflation, because I think that's not the way to do it when you have inflation of the kind that we are dealing with. That having been said, if we don't put up our interest rates in the UK, then our pound's relationship with particularly the US dollar, but also other currencies around the world, tanks further and does import inflation. We have no option.
Well, I don't agree. This is the argument that many people make, but there are just as many, if not more, economists, including people like Rubini, Nouriel Rubini, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, who says the central banks, like the Bank of England, that are raising interest rates all over the place, everybody knee-jerkingly following the states, where the factors are rather different, frankly, are, quote, setting a trap for themselves, unquote.
Hang on. Now, this is quite important. So are you suggesting that the Bank of England should ignore what the US is doing and saying, look, our currency will deteriorate no matter what unless we were to put our interest rates up so high, but then the economic damage would be so enormous. Why don't we just ride this out, keep our interest rates low, allow people to borrow effectively, not crash our economy in that way, and if that encourages more people to buy from home markets, which maybe perhaps it will, and stop importing so much stuff, good luck to us. Is that the answer?
You should consider a career as a ventriloquist, because that's precisely exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, it's almost like I read your stuff. Well, I didn't actually read your stuff, because I don't like to preempt what frothing you're going to do. Okay.
Look, the point is this. I mean, how many times does a mouse run down the same little corridor to see there's no cheese and keep turning around and running back, for goodness sake?
Well, I don't know, because if Stanley, the dog, is there, not many, because he'll get eaten.
Absolutely. This is the 7th interest rate rise in 1 year. We have gone from 0.1% a year or so ago to, we're going to go today probably to 2.25 or 2.5. Pundits are predicting we'll go to 4.5. And guess what? It hasn't protected the dollar. The pound is at its lowest in many, many years. It certainly hasn't stopped inflation, because, as the great James Max has said often, this kind of inflation can't be cured by raising interest rates. It's actually a kind of a battle between...
But the other thing is that it is in itself inflationary, that first of all we're seeing inflation being imported as a result of our weak currency. We're seeing inflation increase as a result of the fact that our borrowing costs, both domestically and corporately and as our nation, are going to go up, which means for every percentage point that we see an interest rate rise, the cost of government debt rises. That government debt has been rising, and then that means that the tax take, more of it gets sucked into just servicing our debt. This is a mare. So let's talk about the effects. You have produced one of the most dismal, negative, concerning, downbeat assessments of what all this means that I've ever read, Roger. It's less frothing and more, it's almost like you're writing a funeral for the British economy. What are you suggesting is going to happen?
Well, I'm very flattered, because when I'm positive, I'm really positive. And when I have to be negative, unfortunately, I tend to, not mince my words. If we carry on with this ridiculous knee-jerk reaction to the United States raising its interest rates for all kinds of political and economic reasons that don't really apply in this country, and keep trying to crack this walnut with this giant sledgehammer, whilst the Bank of England has this kind of quiet fight in the background with Liz Truss, who has threatened their independence, so they're now asserting themselves. I mean, what do British citizens in the street, what do consumers, the largest voting group, care about politics between the Bank of England and the government? And frankly, at this stage...
Okay. Let's just focus, though, on the things that you think might happen.
Well, what I'm saying is that consumers don't care about the U.S. dollar, frankly, at this point. How many of them are buying U.S. imports? Right. If this continues... my predictions are that firstly, millions of people will lose their homes. And this isn't just me saying this, because they can no longer afford interest rates on their mortgages. We are deluged with calls every day from people whose mortgage rates have more than doubled. The banks seem to have taken advantage and raised mortgage interest rates by more than the last Bank of England interest rate rise.
Well, of course they have. I mean, look, Roger, I've just been refixing my mortgage. I'm kind of pleased that I fixed it at the number that I did, given what's going on now. But look, I had a fantastically cheap deal. I am going to have to find double the money. And the thing is that whatever your mortgage rate, if the mortgage rate has increased and you're having to find double the amount to service that, and you're having to find out, and even with the cap, you're having to pay for 3 times your energy bill, that has sucked a huge amount of disposable income out of the economy, and that's going to create problems. I'm assuming banker mum and dad, younger people, equity release markets, I mean, all of these things are all going to be negatively impacted.
All of these things are going to be negatively impacted, and where are the politicians and the regulators who should be reining in the banks from doing this? Yes,
but they're all waiting to hear what Kwasi Kwarteng's going to say on Friday, tomorrow, and he's going to rescue the economy, and he's going to pine in his very deep voice, and that'll be marvellous, and everything will be well, Roger.
Yeah, but they haven't mentioned the words interest rates in anything they've promised us they're going to do.
Yeah, they mentioned tax simplification as well, but they haven't actually done it. Just very quickly and finally to you, you've asked a rhetorical question, so is this okay? I'm assuming that the froth has boiled over and it's not.
Well, but the froth, I mean, I've gone around and I've asked some experts and worthies, et cetera, and the kind of answers that I got, I mean, there's an article in the paper yesterday that the members of the Monetary Policy Commission many of them are divorced from real life. I mean, this is a real problem.
Well, of course they are.
And I asked some people, what about all this bad news that's coming if this is what they do? And they said, oh, don't worry about it, Roger, because, 65% of Britons have fixed rate mortgages. And I said, well, wait a minute. What about people who don't have mortgages because they don't have a house?
Exactly. And then there are all of those issues coming in. Dr. Roger, we must leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for boiling over. I mean, we've really got a lot of mess to clear up. That's Dr. Roger Givalby, personal finance expert and chief executive of Fair Money. Thank you so much.